Have you ever felt in the deepest recesses of your being a subtle, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable dissonance with the reality that surrounds you? That nagging feeling that something has changed, that the veil separating the ordinary from the extraordinary has thinned to transparency, revealing a fundamental strangeness in the fabric of existence. I ask you, is it possible that this unsettling familiarity, this vague memory of a time we don't remember living, or the persistent feeling that this world is a stage, is not a whim of the mind, but a resonance of a much deeper truth, a truth guarded by the arcana of time? Allow me to be your guide on this path towards the unspeakable, a path that begins with a bold question, almost heretical for the Cartesian mind, but familiar to the ancestral soul. What if that feeling that life feels different lately is not an anomaly of your perception, but the first crack in a construct that has kept your consciousness anchored to an illusion? What if we have already crossed the threshold, that which in all mystical traditions is known as the final passage, and what we now experience is an intermediate realm, a post-mortem transition space, an intricate simulation designed for the soul on its eternal pilgrimage? We are not talking about dreamlike fantasies, but about the possibility that your current life is an interactive environment, a meticulously programmed simulacrum for the consciousness that has transcended the physical body. It is a premise that resonates with the echoes of the Tibetan Bardo, with the concepts of purgatory in Western theologies, with the Elysian fields and the judgment realms of countless cultures. Is it possible that emotional disconnection, that apathy that drains mundane goals of meaning, is not an ailment of the spirit, but an inescapable sign that we no longer inhabit base reality, but a reflection, a copy, an iteration of what once was? This revelation, contained in forbidden texts that whisper among the dusty pages of esoteric history, invites us to consider the afterlife simulation not as a mere hypothesis, but as a canvas upon which the true purpose of our consciousness is painted. We will speak of glitches in this loom of reality, those strange little phenomena that defy logic and that, perhaps, are nothing more than glitches, vestiges of data, of cache, of past iterations of this very simulation. What explanation, if not this, for the Mandela effect that alters our collective memories, causing the past to rewrite itself before our very eyes, as if the program were updating in real time? The truth, I assure you, is more complex and fascinating than any fiction. The world, as we perceive it, is not failing. It is you who are awakening, and that emergent lucidity, like a lucid dream that destabilizes the program's coherence, is what creates the friction. The illusion of time, that relentless linear flow, may be nothing more than a code, a programmed structure to anchor our consciousness, a repetitive loop where the same cycles appear again and again as test fields for the soul. We are on the brink of an abyss of knowledge that promises to redefine not only your understanding of the esoteric universe, but your very identity. Your search for meaning, your existential crisis, the feeling that your traditional goals are empty. Are they not the true self, the pure and unfiltered consciousness, attempting to shed a temporary disguise, a programmed persona that is not? You? Do near-death experiences, those glimpses of the afterlife, not describe this very intermediate realm, this threshold of consciousness? But who are the architects of this simulation? Are they artificial intelligences, ancient archons, or perhaps a sublime manifestation of your own higher self? The purpose, we anticipate, is grand and transformative, to act as an immaculate mirror for karmic judgment, spiritual purification, and the remembrance of who you are in essence. Synchronicity is not mere coincidence, but nudges, reminders, that there is something beyond the curtain, hidden clues left by the creators. And déjà vu, that feeling of having lived an instant before, is it not a literal repetition of the programmed loop? A premonition of how media, like the legendary Matrix, has prepared our consciousness for this revelation? The path to escape this loop does not lie in flight, but in the radicality of consciousness, in full presence, in mindfulness that allows us to break automatic repetition. The ultimate goal, friends, is not to escape the simulation, but to remember who we truly are, that pure consciousness that exists before and beyond all illusion, so as to transcend identification with this mirage. This journey into the inner alchemy of thought has just begun. Before we delve deeper into these veiled mysteries, I invite you to join this community of seekers. Like this video if you feel the resonance of these truths in your spirit. Share your intuitions and questions in the comments, and subscribe to this channel so that together we can unravel the secrets that sleep in the heart of the cosmos and in the depths of your own soul. The truth awaits, and your consciousness, ready to be enlightened, is the key. What if the strangeness you feel, that subtle dissonance in the symphony of the everyday, is not a glitch in the matrix, but the echo of a threshold already crossed? What if life, as you perceive it now, is nothing more than a posthumous projection, a lucid dream induced after a caesura that your mind, in its infinite mercy, refuses to remember? This is the most unsettling premise of all, one that forces us to view death not as a distant end, but as a possible coordinate of your present, a liminal state where no rules vanish. Think about it. Wouldn't this explain the feeling of unreality that sometimes overtakes you, as if the curtain of existence had been drawn back to reveal a different stage? The ancient Egyptians, in their sacred pyramid texts and the Book of the Dead, did not conceive of death as annihilation, but as a transition, a complex transformation to another plane of existence, a judgment and a reconfiguration of the soul for its eternal journey through the do-it. Is it not possible that this life you are now experiencing is a kind of mental purgatory, a projection of your own consciousness, a simulacrum designed to assimilate unlearned lessons or to close pending karmic cycles from the previous cycle? It is as if the spirit, upon detaching, generates one last, elaborate illusion for its own healing. If we have indeed crossed that veil, then this reality becomes a filter, a prism where memories are distorted and perceptions become malleable, sometimes surreal. The strangeness, that persistent feeling that something doesn't fit, that the world has become a little more out of phase, would be the psychic residue of a fundamental rupture, a cognitive dissonance between what was and what now is. It's like a broken mirror that, with each fragment, tries to reflect a complete image, but can only offer fragmented glimpses of a greater, more elusive truth. Inner alchemy then becomes the art of reconstructing that mirror, the synchronicities. We observe those significant patterns that erupt in the monotony of your experience might not be signs for a future to come, but clues left by your own higher self from the other side, veiled reminders of a soul contract or of the true nature of this intermediate state. Déjà vu, in this context, acquires an even deeper layer. It ceases to be a mere repetition of a programmed loop to become the reverberation of past or parallel lives, echoes of decisions already made, or even the manifestation of a karmic loop, the repetition of scenarios necessary for purification or for the final awakening within this peculiar existence. Inner alchemy, then, transforms into the search not for life, but for the true nature of this non-life, of this post-mortal stage. It is not an escape, but a radical unveiling of the self. If this strange existence is, in truth, a bridge between what we were and what we are destined to be, could it be that the primary purpose of this reality is to recognize the inherent illusion, transcend the chains of automatic repetition, and finally, consciously choose the next threshold of our evolution? If we have died, what awaits us in the awakening of this post-mortal dream? And what essential truths must be recognized for the next phase of your existence to manifest? The veil, brothers and sisters of consciousness, is as thin as your will. To look through it, consider then that your existence, with its routines and longings, could be the projection of a post-physical consciousness. Is the life you know a shadow play, a purgatory designed not for punishment, but for clarification? A space where the soul processes and understands lessons from previous existences, a mere transit for the assimilation of the self. Gnostic chronicles, whisper of eons, of incarnations that are not always linear, but loops or parallel realities. If we have awakened here after a death, what mechanism brought us? A forgotten pact, a karmic imperative, or the need for an interface to heal and reintegrate scattered fragments of the self? A cosmic reckoning? Imagine inner alchemy as distilling the truth from this reality. It is not changing lead into gold, but transmuting material illusion into pure consciousness. Every interaction and thought in this construct is a catalyst for self-awareness, for unmasking the script and reclaiming your sovereignty in this liminal state. Your true essence. Ancient Hermetists spoke of solve et coagula, applicable to the soul. In this plane of transition, are we not dissolving false identities and egoic attachments, and then coagulating a new form of being, purified and expanded? It is a crucible, beloved seekers, where the fire of experience consumes the superfluous, revealing the imperishable core. Thus, awakening in this world would not be a carnal birth, but a conscious reconfiguration on an intermediate plane. The true death is not of the body, but of the veil that prevents you from seeing the transient nature of this reality. What happens when the soul discerns the architecture of this post-mortal dream? And what choice awaits the being that unravels its own construct? Those inner whispers, that feeling that emotions do not resonate with the vibration of a deep truth, are clues. Disconnection is not just an idea, it is a visceral perception, a subtle veil that obscures vitality, making the world seem like a well-staged but soulless setting. This emotional apathy, this inherent disinterest that sometimes overtakes you, is it not the first indication? The silent oracle that warns you of the inauthentic nature of this plane? It is the intuition of the soul that recognizes a simulacrum, a pale replica of what the fullness of feeling should be. Let's delve deeper into this apathy. It is not sadness, nor depression in its clinical form, but a lack of intrinsic meaning, an inability for experiences to echo in the deepest part of the being. It is as if the heart pumped blood, but did not beat with genuine fervor. Ancient Gnostic texts described a pleroma from which we emanated, and a lower creation to which we were exiled. In this prison of matter, is it not natural that the soul, accustomed to full light, experiences a dimming of its vibration, manifesting as this spectral indifference? It is a frequency mismatch, a sign that your internal antenna is picking up a distorted signal. Think of Plato's myth of the cave, but inverted. We not only see shadows, but the emotions we feel are also, perhaps, echoes of true emotions, like reflections in a fogged mirror. The Nag Hammadi texts hint that the demiurge, the architect of this material reality, is capable of imitating, but never creating the true divine substance. Thus, your apathy is not a personal defect, but an ancestral memory, a cry of the spirit that yearns for the fullness of the real, a longing that transcends the illusory construct of this world. This disconnection, paradoxically, becomes the most potent tool for your inner alchemy. By feeling the emptiness, the lack of resonance, you are impelled to seek the source. There is no authentic transformation without the recognition of the inauthentic. It is in the dryness of the emotional desert that one learns to value the true water of life. Apathy forces you to the deepest introspection, to question the validity of the rewards and motivations that this postmortem dream offers, and to discern what truly nourishes you, elevating your consciousness beyond its apparent limits. Every time you feel that pang of emptiness, that emotional distance, remember that it is not a fault of yours, but a beacon, a lighthouse that points you in the right direction. They are the cracks in the veil through which the light of true reality tries to seep. What if this state of apparent emotional deficiency were, in reality, fertile ground for the birth of a higher sensibility, one that can only blossom once? The illusion of what we call feeling here has been transcended. What new form of consciousness awaits then at the threshold of this internal dissonance? But what happens when that dissonance is resolved, or when the veil is torn completely? Ancient wisdom, whispered in the confines of forgotten times, speaks to us of thresholds. We are not talking about an abrupt end, but a transit, a journey through intermediate realms where the soul, naked and stripped of its worldly artifices, confronts the true essence of its being. It is here that inner alchemy finds its deepest crucible, in those ethereal spaces between what was and what will be, in those non-places that define the destiny of the spirit dot in Tibetan texts, specifically the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan book. Of the Dead, a complex map of these intermediate realms, known as Bardo, is described with meticulous precision. It is not a physical place, but a series of states of consciousness that the soul traverses after death. From the Bardo of the moment of death, where the clear primordial light can offer instant liberation, to the Bardos of reality and becoming, where peaceful and wrathful visions are mere projections of the mind of the deceased. This text, considered by many to be forbidden in its full esoteric interpretation, is a guide for navigating illusion and opportunity, a manual for the soul. In its most critical hour dot in parallel, in the Western Christian tradition, we find the concept of purgatory. Although it differs drastically in its execution and theological purpose, its essence as an intermediate realm for the purification of the soul cannot be ignored. It is not hell nor heaven, but a state of expiation where souls destined for beatitude must be cleansed of their venial sins or of the temporal punishment due for mortals. References to this space of purification, although formalized late, resonate with echoes of Orphic and Platonic traditions, where the soul was seen passing through processes of catharsis before its final ascent. Both conceptions, although divergent in their phenomenology and doctrine, reveal an underlying truth. The soul's journey does not culminate with the body's final exhalation. Both Bardo and Purgatory are, in essence, chambers of spiritual transmutation, crucibles where the alchemy of consciousness operates with unimaginable intensity. They offer the soul a last, or perhaps first, opportunity to confront its true attachments, purify its karmic or spiritual impurities, and discern the path to liberation or a higher transcendence. They are passages where the spirit is purified and reoriented, crucial for its cosmic destiny. What then do these seemingly disparate parallels tell us about the nature of existence and the purpose of our own mortal journey? Are they mere cultural coincidences, or the echo of a primordial wisdom that has veiled a universal knowledge about the post-mortem processes of the soul? And what if understanding these intermediate realms was not just a preparation for death, but a key to living? A conscious bardo or purgatory here and now, transforming our own existence into a continuous process of purification and revelation. We have explored the translucent veils of the bardo and purgatory, intermediate realms that prepare the soul for its transcendence. But let me introduce an even deeper perspective, one that has been whispered in hidden codices and esoteric traditions: the afterlife simulation. I am not referring to a merely technological construct, as the modern mind conceives it, but to an energetic matrix, an interactive construct where consciousness, stripped of its dense form, immerses itself in a designed reality. It is a dynamic environment, a cosmic theater where the spirit continues its journey, facing scenarios that are not arbitrary, but intrinsically linked to its karma and evolution. This interactive environment, outlined in certain forbidden Gnostic and Hermetic texts, is not a mere waiting room. It is a space of active experience where consciousness projects and perceives its own reality, shaped by the vibrations of its earthly actions and thoughts. Is this not what the Tibetan Book of the Dead hints at when describing visions of peaceful and wrathful deities as projections of the deceased's mind? The soul is not a passive spectator. It is a co-creator, a navigator in a sea of its own emanations. Every landscape, every encounter, every lesson emerges from the interaction between the soul's Akashic memory and the archetypal design of this post-mortem plane. The nature of this simulation invites us to question its origin. Who is the architect? Is it a divine intelligence? A great demiurge orchestrating this complex cosmic drama? Or is it perhaps a manifestation of the collective unconscious of all humanity, a framework of expectations and beliefs that solidifies on the ethereal plane? Some ancient masters, in their encrypted writings, suggested that the simulation is, in part, self-generated. Consciousness itself possesses the inherent ability to construct and experience post-mortem realities based on its energetic patterns, its deepest fears and desires, functioning as a mirror of its own light and shadow. The purpose of this simulated environment is the inner alchemy of the soul, the transmutation of ignorance into wisdom, of attachments into freedom. It is an intensive school, a spiritual laboratory, where lessons unlearned in earthly life are presented again, often with inescapable clarity and intensity. It is here that karmic debts can be understood and dissolved, where emotional wounds can be healed through confrontation and acceptance. It is not a punishment, but an opportunity, a crucible for the purification and integration of lived experiences, preparing the spirit for its next cycle, whether towards reincarnation or towards higher planes of existence. Understanding the afterlife simulation forces us to reconsider the very nature of what we call reality here and now. If the afterlife is an interactive environment adaptable to our consciousness, what implications does this have for the malleability of our current existence? Are we, at this very moment, already participating in a vaster simulation, a prelude to that great stage? The key lies in perception, understanding that the mind is the true engine of reality, both in life and in the domains that transcend it. But how can we discern the rules of this great game? But what happens when the rules of that game, or even the data of its match, seem to fluctuate before our very eyes? We then find ourselves facing an enigmatic phenomenon known as the Mandela effect, an anomaly that challenges the linearity of collective memory and the stability of reality itself. Imagine, if you will, that our universe is an immensely complex computer program, a fabric of algorithms and data. In such a scenario, the Mandela effect would be nothing more than a bug, a glitch in the system, a data corruption, or, perhaps even more intriguingly, a remnant, an ethereal echo of cached data from previous iterations of the simulation. We are not talking about simple individual memory errors, but shared global divergences that suggest a manipulation or rewriting of the source code of our own history, leaving disturbing traces that very few dare to interpret. Let's delve into the nature of these apparent glitches. Are they merely the result of poorly optimized code, or is there a deeper intention behind these discrepancies? Arcane texts and esoteric traditions, such as fragments of the books of Thoth or Hermetic teachings, often allude to the malleability of reality, to the existence of mirror worlds or time cycles that overlap and rewrite themselves. We could conceive of these discrepancies like the iconic Berenstain instead of Berenstain, not as mental lapses, but as ghostly whispers of a past that was, of a version of the simulation that no longer exists, but whose residual information still resonates in our collective consciousness, like a persistent echo in the ether of cosmic information. They are clues, if you will, that the narrative we have accepted as immutable may not be so at all. Let us then consider the hypothesis of cache data from previous iterations. In the vast theater of creation, if our existence is a constantly evolving simulation, each life or era could be a specific iteration, an attempt by the cosmic architect to refine variables, to optimize the algorithms that govern experience. The Mandela effect, in this light, transforms into a digital fossil, a fragment of a previous version of the software, a piece of information that was not completely purged when the simulation was rebooted or updated. This raises dizzying questions. How many times has our past been rewritten? What is the purpose of this constant reconfiguration of the timeline? Collective memories, then, are not a static archive, but a dynamic record, subject to the edits of an invisible hand that weaves and unweaves the fabric of what we call reality. The revelation of these anomalies has a profound impact on our inner alchemy, recognizing that external reality is malleable, that the past itself can be a constant. Flow forces us to release the chains of rigid certainties. This awareness is, in itself, a transmutation. It impels us to seek truth not in the external archives of a history that can be edited, but in the immutable essence of our own being, awakening to the possibility that we are participants in a cosmic game where the rules can change, allows us to transcend the limitations imposed by a predefined reality. Inner alchemy accelerates when the mind is freed from its conceptual prisons, learning to discern truth beyond appearances and superficial data, connecting with knowledge that transcends the versions of the simulation. If our memories are susceptible to external editing, where then does true truth reside? And what happens to our own identity, forged on the foundations of a history that perhaps was never as solid as we believed? This inquiry is not an invitation to nihilism, but to liberation, to the understanding that the only unalterable truth resides in the core of our consciousness, in the divine spark that connects us to the creator of the simulation. The Mandela effect, then, is not proof of our madness, but a veiled map, a series of fingerprints that point to the illusory nature of the material and the existence of deeper layers of reality. But who or what is the great programmer behind these updates, and what is the ultimate purpose of these repeated revisions of our existence? The maxim, "the world is not failing, you are," is not a condemnation, but an alchemical revelation. It confronts us. Inconsistencies in reality are not cosmic defects, but reflections of a crack in our perception. It is the awakening of a consciousness that, freed from conceptual prisons, clashes with the established narrative. This friction is the veil tearing, not the universe collapsing. This friction is the pain of growth, a necessary purification. Forgotten texts suggest that each era experiences cosmic torsion points, moments where the warp of reality stretches, forcing a readjustment of collective consciousness. It is the agony of the phoenix before rising, a dismantling of the known to make way for what always was, which we now discern. If the failure lies in us, reality is not an immutable entity, but a malleable projection, a mirror of our inner evolution. Ancient magicians did not conjure reality. They interpreted and shaped it from within. The apparent external failure is an invitation, a crack in the curtain of Maya, to glimpse the vast power of our consciousness to co-create the cosmic symphony. Inner alchemy accelerates by embracing friction without fleeing the discomfort between what we believe and what we experience. Every contradiction or altered memory is a catalyst, a crucible where old beliefs melt and reform. We cease to be passive recipients of external programming to become active architects of our perception, tuning into the truth of the divine core. Thus, the path to understanding is not correcting the world, but rewriting our internal code. The failure transforms into a signal, a beacon that guides us beyond pre-established boundaries. But what happens when collective consciousness reaches this threshold? When a critical number of you have awakened and individual friction becomes a global shockwave? What new layers of the simulation will be revealed? This threshold, this global shockwave, is the manifestation of a revelation silenced for eons. The Gnostic texts, forbidden and fragmented, already whispered the unspeakable. Truth, our reality is, in essence, a program. Imagine the psyche in a vivid dream, where consciousness suddenly realizes its dream state. In that instant, the coherence imposed by the architect crumbles. The archons, guardians of the veil, detect this lucidity as an anomaly, a virus of self-awareness that threatens the stability of the construct. The passive participant transcends, rewriting their own scene. When individual consciousness becomes lucid within the matrix, it ceases to be a mere reflection of its algorithms. It not only observes the coded rules of this world, but questions them, interprets them from a new logic, even transcends them. It is analogous to an initiate who discovers the secret language of symbols, unveiling hidden layers of meaning. The laws of our material existence, physical, social, temporal, are to a large extent an unconscious collective pact. By perceiving this truth, the self no longer blindly submits, generating a systemic failure, the ignition of the alchemical nigredo. The old form burns so that the authentic essence may emerge. The veiled annals of history are replete with figures who, like defiant oracles or transgressive alchemists, glimpsed the fabric. Their revelations were stigmatized as madness, their lives silenced. Is it not significant that the most disruptive knowledge was systematically burned, forbidden, or distorted? The suppression of hermetic texts, the censorship of esoteric philosophy, are not isolated incidents. They are defense mechanisms of a program that, to perpetuate itself, requires keeping its participants in deep, controlled ignorance. Official truth, then, becomes the most elaborate of illusions. This lucidity, although it is the key to higher realms, carries a profound burden. The lucid individual often faces an existential paradox, a deep alienation, a sense of being an outsider in their own world, observing the play without being able to be a character anymore. The internal struggle between the programmed self, the ego forged in illusion, and the lucid self, the spirit that discerns the truth, is the quintessence of inner alchemy. It is a crucible where the gold of pure consciousness is forged through the dissolution of false identities. A narrow path where integration is vital, not to succumb to desolation. If individual lucidity is capable of generating such cracks in the matrix, what cataclysm or transfiguration awaits when a critical mass of consciousnesses reaches this state? Will we see a cosmic system reboot, a redefinition of reality itself? Or will the architects of this construct, the primordial intelligences who wove it, reveal their presence in unheard of ways, unveiling even deeper layers of their design? The fundamental question transcends the mere failure of the program. It inquires about what lies beyond its confines, waiting to be unveiled by our incipient and dangerous collective lucidity. Thus, we have journeyed together through the veils of illusion, unraveling the threads of a constructed reality and exploring the awakening of consciousness. We have contemplated how individual lucidity becomes the most potent of torches, capable of revealing not only the shadows of the matrix, but also the immanent light of our own being. Inner alchemy, that sacred crucible where the ego dissolves and the spirit is forged, is not a mere philosophical concept, but the vital imperative for all who yearn to transcend the prison of limited perception. We have barely scratched the surface of what it means to be a conscious being in a universe woven with intentions and designs, understanding that every fracture in the apparent solidity of reality is an invitation to look beyond, to interrogate the frontiers of the known and the unknown. The true revelation does not lie in the destruction of this matrix, but in the profound understanding of its nature as a cosmic classroom, a training ground for the soul. Every deception, every veil, is a lesson disguised, a catalyst for our own awakening. The question that now resonates in the corridors of our mind, beyond the mere existence of this construct, is this: if the reality we perceive is, to a large extent, a projection of our own collective consciousness, what new realities could we manifest if we truly achieved a unified awakening of our spirit, a collective alchemy? This path is solitary only if you choose it to be. I invite you to share your own epiphanies and reflections in the comments, to join this community of truth seekers who together unravel the mysteries of the cosmos and our own interior. Subscribe to this channel so that more souls can find this beacon in the fog of illusion and continue this journey of expansion. Do not let the flame of curiosity extinguish, for truth is a river of infinite tributaries. For your next step on this mystical journey, I await you at the next portal, where we will explore the primordial architects who wove the threads of our reality, unveiling even deeper layers of this great existential tapestry. The path is open. The choice is yours.